Disturbing true winter horror stories. My relatives own a small holiday house in my folks are avid skiers in Colorado, which served as the driving force for the house has been in the market since that purchase. Family from before my birth, it's unquestionably displaying its age in many techniques, but it's also over 40 years old. It won't appear brand new because my dad has to perform extensive maintenance on the property. It has remained in our family over the years. Morning, and it's actually heading out. My dad talks about knocking at this moment, tearing it down and moving to a new location, but I avoid getting too immersed in his. This story's decision takes place about 15. When I was 8 years old, my brother and I was 11 years old. We were in Colorado during the snowfall. During the blizzard was tremendous, and of course, I had to go out with my brother and enjoy the wonderful thing about when we were children. Getting up there was the property has an enormous amount of area, enormous opening surrounded by woods. The road has a dead end in all directions. That declines, resulting in a few more properties that are nearly as large. Ideal arrangement for hide-and-seek or snowball battles or a variety of other games. Josh, my brother and I, went out like that, playing our snowball game while wearing our snow gear flight game, using a little custom rules essentially. We would erect two forts. We may choose to have our forts any place, but we needed to communicate our location to one another. After picking, we would create a single gigantic, the so-called jewel, that is snowed wall, we would need to be able to steal from the Josh, return to our base from another one. Decided to establish his base on the closest. There was nearly a nearby property. 9 times out of 10. I never get a car like that. We would frequently play there. Games on their grounds as well as we construct. We're never there. Small walls to simulate a fort, followed by the large snowball should be placed beyond the walls, so to reach out to one another in this game, we might either pierce the woods or travel up or down the road to obtain to the fort. On the other side, Josh once dashed down the street and vanished. I was meant to wait, for he should sound the whistle to indicate that I waited for a long time before the game started. Like for more than 5 minutes, he had already established his fort. So all he needed to do was descend again, and when it hits the area, blow the whistle. Perhaps at the 10-minute mark, I concluded that I very likely couldn't hear the whistle from that point, so I began. Was it best to go when I was planning my route? Along the road or in the woods, I decided to take the route, because to be honest, traversing the forest during when I was 8, snowstorm was a frightening. Believed I began to plod through the snow on the ground that had not been plowed as flakes of the volume of snow flew into my face layers that my mother forced me to wear, yet I wasn't cold at all when I got close to the road leading to the nearby property. I searched the trees, but failed to find. Josh is over. The trees and shrubs were all barren there. It was rather simple to see in the winter, via the forest. So I sliced into the property via the woods to somewhat sneak in. But Josh wasn't there at all. I noticed his fort in the area, so I looked approximately, and when I could verify that he wasn't visible when I got close. His fort to seize the gem prior to me, could I hear a woman shouting, "Excuse me, are you trying to find your I went in that direction, brother?" Originated from, and the older woman at the neighbor's house's front door, I informed that we were playing a game. "Your brother isn't," she replied. I was so perplexed that I began moving in the direction of the front steps of the residence, and when I approached the woman's face, became more distinct in my 8-year-old's mind. She appeared much older than she most likely was approaching the house. I saw that a window on the upper floor. someone was watching over me. For a moment, I truly believed it to be Josh. Someone with half of their face was there, possibly wearing a black beanie, and their face was concealed at the bottom. Beneath the window's bottom, I also observed a second footprint track heading for the front door. They had to be. The woman at Josh's was giving me a really eerie grin. I recall the sensation of, for some reason, she made my heart stop, motioned for me to enter and exit. I froze in my tracks because of the cold. Josh yelled, but there was nothing there. In reaction, the woman's smile faded. Didn't anticipate that I would also observed that the other trail of if it was, footprints were doubled over. Josh looked back at his footprints, and returning in the direction of the eye suddenly heard heavy footsteps coming from the woods. They sounded as though they were inside the house. Were coming downstairs from above. I began to run, and the woman let out a scream at either myself or someone else. I didn't realize that I once glanced back at the residence, as well as the face that was upstairs at the window that was previously there was gone. Fled the premises and returned to the road. Following on my former paths, I began to hear the whistling of my father from he would whistle up the hill to fetch. At dinner time, my brother and I are at home. Upon returning to our driveway, my Josh and Dad were already there, having been en route to pick me up before I might even attempt to clarify what just occurred. Josh had already informed me that individuals were present at the neighbor's house urging him to arrive. I stated the exact same thing inside. My dad went down there because it happened to me, holding a weapon of some sort, while our mother and I waited at home. After a long time, he returned and remarked that there was no lock on the entrance door, and we moved to another since one was responding. Neighbors' residence, and they were aware of the homeowners, and they gave them a call. I still get chills any time I read this section. My dad told me what he had been told. That house's owners weren't present. Over the weekend, no one was expected to be. The police were called to the house, and my brother and I did have everything to talk to one of the responding policemen to explain the woman, following which we were no longer involved. In my father's opinion, the house's back door was unlocked, was looked into, but nothing was found. Consequently, my parents brought home any additional valuables out of concern for a break. While we were away following that day, we avoided taking part in that property solely based on the eerie aspect of that recollection. Thank God we didn't go in there alone.